Boom.
Welcome to Thunder Nerds. I'm Brian Hinson.
I'm Sarah Veslov.
And I'm Frederick Philip von Weiss. And thank you so much for consuming the Thunder Nerds, a conversation with the people behind the technology that love what they do.
And do tech
good. Pow! Bam! Welcome to the show, everyone. Brian, kick us off.
Yeah, I'd like to thank our this season's sponsor, Auth0. Thank you so much for sponsoring us, and they care all about identity. I care about identity too because it's my identity, and I don't want anyone else to have it. They make it super easy for developers to set up authentication, and they have some incredible documentation and SDKs available for a wide range of technologies and frameworks. I personally tested their Quick Start SDK for a project I'm working on, and I had a working login in 10 minutes. And they have a really generous free tier to help you get started. To try it out, go to auth0.com today. And Sarah?
Yeah, so my job is to say subscribe to the show. That's all. No, seriously though. Go find us on YouTube. Done, yeah. I like to keep things light, man. Just brevity is important. But no, seriously, if you want to be able to know when something's going to be on live and throw your questions in live during the show and actually throw us all off and make us sweat a little bit, you need to subscribe to do that. So go ahead and hit that button.
Mostly Frederick. Yeah.
Yep, possibly. And also live chat us during the show. We're answering questions all through this, so go ahead and chat us up. So with all that being said, and without any further ado, let's go ahead and welcome our guest. We have CEO and co-founder at Rollout.io, Erez Rusovsky. Welcome to the show.
You got it. Hi, everybody, and thanks for having me. Just a quick correction. I was the Rollout CEO and co-founder. Now I lead the product inside CloudBees, which acquired Rollout. So just a quick thing.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us about that? So you got acquired what year?
Last year, I think it was almost a year ago, June 2019. So almost a year ago.
Wow. So what did that look like for you? Did you just I don't know, like you doing business as normal, or were you outright trying to get acquired? How did that happen?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I think we were doing business as normal. Startups is never easy. So, I wouldn't say that we had like a smooth sailing all along, but we were doing business as usual, got to a conversation with CloudBees about some partnership. And then at one point, and I'm sure we're going to go into what they do, what we did. And then, the partnership kind of moved on. And then at one point, it made a lot of sense for 1 + 1 = 3 kind of move. And so they approached us. We said initially no. And then they kind of, made a better offer, as they say. And eventually, but I would say this, that an acquisition is a violent experience to anybody, both after joining, but also the experience itself. It's never easy. There's many stakeholders. Everybody wants a different thing. And so, it wasn't easy, but, I'm happy that we've done it. I think, both companies kind of had the same pretty much mission, and, it made sense for two companies to join forces.
I can't believe you said it's a classic 1 + 1 = 3. Like I can't.
I think I've talked to a lot of reporters at one point, so I kind of, that was my pitch. And so when Frederick asked me that,
Just like went right into it. Sorry for those who are watching the show. Erez and I worked together at CloudBees. I was actually the product designer dedicated to Rollout when the acquisition happened. I had so much fun working with him and AL. But one of the funny things was the sense of humor and the ridiculousness. And so one of the big things that we talked about was during the acquisition, Erez did a lot of the talking, because he's CEO, and there's a saying in Israel of 1 + 1 = 3. We don't have that saying here. 1 + 1 = 3 is like that. It's something that doesn't make sense.
What do you mean it doesn't make sense?
It doesn't make sense. 1 + 1. So did AL not tell you this? This was like a big joke with all of us. We'd be like, yeah, it's a classic 1 + 1 = 3. And
first time I'm hearing this.
Anyway, I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah. So can you tell us what 1 + 1 = 3 means?
Yes, of course. It means that you have, that you join two things that each of them has a certain value separately, but then when you join them together, they are actually worth more. So instead of 1 plus 1 equals 2, they are now equal 3. Ba-bam. Does that make sense to you guys? Wait, hey.
Yeah,
Fred,
it does.
It makes
When a
sense.
mommy and a
I think it
daddy
makes
get
perfect
together,
sense. I
Sarah.
love that saying. I think the problem is with the United States, or at least in my experience, that's kind of like it sounds like a kid joke, like little kids would say, "Ha ha, 1 plus 1 equals 3." But like,
I got it.
I do see the value in what you're saying. It totally makes sense. I like it, and I'll probably start using it.
I hope so.
Really like it. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I really like it too. So
I hope you're not making fun of me, but
no,
I believe you.
No, it was heartwarming. I was like, oh, I can't believe it. You said it. 1 plus 1 equals 3.
Memories, right?
It was. This is going to be a trip down memory lane for me.
How do we take a trip down memory lane? What was Rollout?
So it's a good question. So Rollout started with, we're all technical, right? So we saw a problem around mobile software delivery. And how on mobile the delivery cycles are very long because it's essentially a download application that as a developer you have to send that to the app store, they have to approve it, and then the users download that to their phone either automatically or manually. And so if I'm a developer and I have a bug in production on my client side on my mobile application, I'm stuck with it. There's nothing I could do until I get the new version out. And so we saw this time and time over again how mobile teams are suffering from that, and we created a very novel solution that essentially allows iOS and Android teams that are doing native development to actually patch their application without releasing a new version to the App Store. And we essentially gave them code level access remotely, and so you can actually swap methods or functions remotely. And so that's how Rollout started, but it's not how Rollout ended. Can you guess what happened? Hint?
I think something rolled out.
Yes. But what rolled out?
I'm going to say one thing and then another thing, and they came together and they equal. Well, you know that.
So okay. So at one point, I mean, it was. So it started. It was great. We had some nice traction. We got to a point where we supported, almost 100 million monthly active devices, and we had some brand names like Yahoo and Musical.ly, which turned into TikTok, and and we got a lot of love from the developer community in that sense. But then there was always that risk factor that one of the platforms themselves, Apple or Google, and mostly Apple, would say, hey, that's not cool with us. You're bypassing our controls over here. And essentially that's what happened. So April 2017, we started getting emails from our customers saying, hey, Apple reached out to us saying we're using some third-party SDK that is doing some illegal stuff. Is it you guys? And of course, we said no. But then it was one customer. I think it was Jet.com, which was about my Walmart. They were the first to send us an email. Then everybody else sent us that email. And so we were saying, oh my God, So we went from a bunch of customers and some revenue to basically zero on everything in a matter of 1 month. And and at that point, that was so we had to transition, right? And that's the moment in time where Rollout transitioned to what we did eventually and got sold eventually for, which is feature flags or feature management, if you're familiar with the concept. Are you? Frederick? Brian?
I was muted. Yeah, definitely. It's interesting that you went that way. Like, how did your customer base react? Did you retain your customer base? Or, I mean, it sounds to me like you gained people from that pivot.
Well, so it's an interesting point. So we already started looking at feature flags or feature management when we were doing the previous product, because we felt that some of that patching idea was kind of hard to digest. It's nice if you have a bug in production, but if we've seen a lot of use cases where people were just trying to flip a switch between if a feature is on or off. When they were using a hot patching product. And so and keep in mind that we were selling only to mobile engineering. And one of the things that we've discovered is that from a standpoint of a company, that's kind of a tiny market, or it's a small market. It's not a big of a market as we initially thought it is. And if you think about companies that have done very well just selling to mobile engineering teams, you won't find a lot of them, or at all. And so we wanted at that point to already move away from just selling to mobile teams. And so feature flags is very holistic. It's of course all the engineering. It doesn't matter if you're mobile or backend and front end. People are leveraging that technique and that capability for various things. And so we already were in the beta phase of developing that capability. And so when the thing with Apple happened, we said, hey, let's lemon to lemonade. Let's use this. We got a lot of like news coverage. I mean, tech news coverage. We're not on CNN.com, but hacker news and stuff like that. So we said, okay, let's just go with a beta version of the feature flag product, and then just again lemon to lemonade. Not 1 + 1 = 3. So. And so we turned, I think there was a few customers that transitioned with us because we were already kind of beta testing with them, but essentially we went back to square one. And keep in mind that we were like, I think 17 people at the time. We had a burn rate. We were, it wasn't a fun experience whatsoever to have. But we transitioned, and we created that feature management. And just so to anybody who doesn't know, and maybe a lot of the viewers don't know, feature flags, the concept is essentially an old engineering technique to basically gate some of the features in the code with an if and else statement, and essentially give the team, the engineering team, the product team, the ability to turn off and on features remotely in production, so post-deployment. Has many values, and all of the big tech companies, Facebook, Google, Uber, Netflix, they're using this. There's not a single line of code that is not gated behind feature flags. And this is something that is basically getting more traction as we speak, and more companies are leveraging that capability.
Do you mind if I ask you a quick question, just relevant to what you just said? For somebody that is just hearing this concept for the first time, and that sparks something in their head like, oh man, I really need to do this for my company. What would you tell them is like the entry point? How does one get started doing something like that? Just a quick thought on that.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think usually it starts with the engineering team. I think so if you go back to this, like what are the values of feature flags, right? So there's 3 main value points, right? One of them is deployment safety. So you want to avoid that emergency release at the middle of the night because you broke something. So if you have feature flags and something is breaking, just turn that feature off remotely. Avoid that emergency release. You don't fix that on the next version release when you're not under pressure, right? So that's one use case, and that's very reactive. You could be more proactive and say, hey, you know what, that feature, I'm not so sure about this. Let me gradually roll this to some subset of my user base. So maybe 10%, maybe just people in the US, maybe just people that are beta users or alpha users. So again, on the safety side, but just this is proactive. I'm gradually deploying this feature to everybody. So that's one use case. The other use case is deployment velocity. So that means, as an engineering team, I want to get some predictability into my release cycle. So I don't want late stage QA bugs to stop me. So again, feature flags, you find a bug late stage QA, turn that feature off, continue with your release cycle, fix that bug later, and then have another release. Or things like testing in production, where you test features on live traffic, but just a subset of that. And then the last use case is the ability to get that feedback loop going. So you open the feature to a subset of the user base, you get feedback either qualitative or quantitative, meaning quantitative is essentially another word for A/B testing or experimentation, but you're essentially measuring the impact of that feature on your business KPIs. And then you decide if you want to roll this to everybody else, or it's not safe as you figured, and you need to roll this back and fix some stuff. So these are kind of the values. And I think what we've seen normally is that usually it starts with the safety and speed around engineering. I would say this, I have seen a lot of homegrown solution in the space. I think most companies start with a homegrown solution because, essentially in the code base, it's an if statement. It's an if statement around a piece of code and then a configuration file that essentially decides if it's on or off. I wouldn't go that way because I think it gets complicated very, very fast. And then you have kind of developers editing this configuration file somewhere and nobody knows, what's the status. So I would find a third-party feature management, feature flagging solution, and that's where I would get started.
Do you mind? I'm sorry to interject again, but could you just point out like two or three of those services?
Yeah. So of course I'm going to mention Rollout, which is now Rollout CloudBees, and then there's also another company called Launch Darkly, another company called Split.io. These are probably the three leading companies in the space. But just to maybe finish that thought around getting started, the only thing I mention around this is that it's very easy to get started. You don't have to go all in. So you could start with one feature and say, hey, I want to gate this behind a feature flag, boom, done. And then as you mature, as you progress, you can add more feature flags and then have, kind of go into a situation where everything is gated behind feature flags. You get maximum.
Yeah, and for like the everyday person, an easy way to actually see something like that is like Chrome flags.
Yeah, great example.
Go. Yeah.
So this is a great example of feature flags that have been externalized and provided to the end customer where they can actually turn things on and off for themselves. And that's a use case. We're not doing that at all, but that's a very common use case that we've seen.
And I'm curious, what does Rollout actually provide for the developers to make this easier for them?
Yeah, so there's SDKs across many languages, all the way from mobile to front-end web to back-end languages. And then the SDKs basically have a set of APIs where you use them to get the feature flags. And then there's the segmentation component. So I want to deploy just to Brian or just to Frederick or just to Sal, maybe just to people in the US. So you want to be able to do that. And then also there's the control dashboard that allows you to, control these deployments and create these custom rules around deployments and, gain visibility into the usage and, move between environments. So that, pretty much the management component.
Sweet.
So I imagine then you got to this point and you were probably, you launched I don't know if you were still an MVP or if you were more along the line before you started getting interest from the bees, but I'm sure you had this good luck charm that came into your office one day named Sarah, and everything just started to illuminate and all the good luck started pouring in after that. Is that how it went?
No, I came with the bees.
Oh, you came with the bees.
It was part of the swarm.
Part of the swarm. Gotcha.
Has she shown you her book? She's got a book. Did you know?
Oh my God, shut up.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen it before. It's called Building Design Systems.
Where does it say Sarah? I see Sarah Vasilov.
Sarah Vasilov. Wow. She actually signed my book. She'll sign your book for you. Yeah, I got right here to Frederick Withelov, Sarah Vasilov, XOXO. Wow. Pretty nice. I'm gonna put this back on my bookshelf right over here.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
This is it's funny you never told me you have a. When did you write this book?
You didn't know I wrote a book?
I had no idea, freaking idea. You've never mentioned this.
Sarah Vasilov. This is the book you're talking about, right?
And not just Sarah wrote it.
Exactly.
And Tori.
And Tori Davis. Very important person. Yeah. Very important person.
We'll link that episode of the book where we talk to Tori and Sarah in the show notes for everyone.
Yeah. Can I get a copy? A signed one?
Sarah will send you a copy and sign it.
Yeah, go to Amazon and click buy.
No, come on.
No, Sarah will send you a copy. She's just joking.
I only have one left.
You only have one of your own books left?
Yeah, I didn't really buy that many.
She sold like crazy.
That's true. They all sold out. I'd imagine so. I'm gonna put this back on my shelf.
I hate you so much. I hate you. No, Erez and I met at CloudBees.
She came with the bees.
I did. I came with the bees, but I was super excited about the show because working with Erez and Eyal, who is not here, sadly.
She's not here.
but Eyal is freaking hilarious. So it was a great time. It was a really good time. I found it really interesting. First, I think the hardest thing for me and for a lot of people is getting the names right, because they both begin with E, and for some reason people in America like cannot handle this.
No, I have to tell you, Sarah, don't feel bad. A lot of people at all cannot handle this until, I think there was a lady who used to work with us for like, she was like the COO of the company. And, and she kept calling me Eyal all the time. And, like for years, until maybe today, it's confusing.
Yeah. So that was the first thing to get over was how confusing it was. And then for me, I immediately I don't know, I just felt like I clicked, like I totally got on their wavelength. It took me no time at all to yell at them in meetings and feel not bad about it at all.
No, and Sarah is a yelling person, so
she's mean, right?
Oh, yeah, she's mean. We all know.
I wouldn't say mean, but I would say yelling.
I'm stern. I'm a very stern person,
Yes,
Sarah's not mean. I'm just kidding.
She's only made Frederick cry like 2 or 3 times.
I think 2 or 3 times, yeah.
Yeah, several. I would say several. I would employ that word.
But so I was lucky enough to actually travel to Tel Aviv and spend a whole week with the team there. Erez was not there because
I wasn't.
But I was there with Eyal, and I think one of the greatest things was I learned that Eyal and Erez have known each other for a very, very long time, since like kindergarten.
Yeah, even he was like a neighbor, like across the street. Yeah. So I'm originally Israeli. Eyal, which was my co-founder, he's also Israeli, as you can imagine, and we both grew in a suburb next to Haifa. But then, at one point, when we started the company was started in Tel Aviv. And then when the company started to go, I moved to San Francisco because that's where everything is happening. Yeah. And Eyal stayed with the engineering in Israel, and that's very common for Israeli companies.
Yeah. It was just one of those things, like I just, and so there were so many stories where we just, made fun of you endlessly, Erez,
I can imagine.
And Shukaka, but yeah, it was pretty amazing. But no, I thought that was really, really cool. And I'm actually interested, and I don't want to move away from Rollout. We can definitely talk about that more, but super interested in the differences that you see between the tech scene in Tel Aviv and the tech scene in San Francisco, since you've been in both places. I know the things that I saw, but you even more so, I think you'd have a better perspective because you've lived in both places.
Yeah, no, but it's interesting to hear you as well. I don't think we've talked about this.
No, I don't think we have. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Tel Aviv is first of all is a tech hub, right? It's like it's trying to be the San Francisco, right? It's trying to be, everybody's trying to be the San Francisco in terms of tech, but Tel Aviv is one of these places there's a dense population and everybody is startups oriented, right? I think, big differences is that the US and specifically San Francisco is much more B2C oriented. So there's a lot of great companies that are B2C that are super successful. You would find in Israel much more B2B, much more, security related companies, a lot of security related companies. I think, the entire movement in Israel of the tech scene started from a lot of these, kids finishing the army, being positioned in very, in all kinds of units that do security, and then say, this is a great idea for a company. And so you'd find a lot of that in Israel. And I think in Israel, they value more the engineering aspect of a startup. So you are coming with this brilliant engineering idea, whereas US is much more oriented to the business side, and to the growth, to the revenue. And, so that's kind of, so Israel is coming along. There's a few good, interesting, big Israeli companies that are more consumer oriented. But that would be kind of the biggest difference that I would say, but I'm wondering, Sarah, what have you seen?
Go ahead. No, you go. No.
I was going to say is that it's funny you said about, you're more tech oriented, because every time I see some new technology come out, it seems like it's coming from Tel Aviv, A&D there. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Or
for
R&D,
me,
brother.
Yeah, I was like, A&D. What is A&D? So I'm just gonna smooth over that. Even say that. But the interesting thing for me, definitely, I agree with with all of that. I think those are some major things. For me, I think it was the cultural difference. One of the reasons why I like to work remote is that I'm not really comfortable in San Francisco. Not that I don't like San Francisco and the people that work there. It's fine. But it is very... all right. So
hear the way she said, like, it's fine. This is kind of a disclaimer.
It's fine. What I don't like is everyone there is, this is just my experience, inside of companies and being there, people are very upbeat and happy and everything's going to be fine and everything's going to be okay. And
it's too much for Sarah.
No,
Sounds awful.
It's not real. It's not real. Things are not always going to be okay. Things are not always going to be fine. And there's this kind of strange, bubble of San Francisco that people seem to live in, or at least these companies, not the people, because the people are awesome everywhere.
People are people, yeah.
People are people. But what I found in Tel Aviv, it was much more of this realistic view of what's possible and what could happen. And so you can be in this conversation and really talk about, is this even really a good idea? Is this going to happen or not? People aren't blowing smoke up your ass 24/7 in Tel Aviv. It's very real, a little bit pessimistic, like trying to shoot holes in something before you go too far along with it. But at the end of the day, this kind of can do attitude of I don't know how to describe it. We did this really cool thing. I don't know if you know this, Erez. While we were there, we did a kind of overview of Israeli culture, like the differences between American culture and Israeli culture. And they started going down this list of how do we do things differently here than people do in America? And one of them was being very frank and upfront, and they started taking all of these boxes. And at the end, they were like, so, what did you learn about Israeli culture and American culture? And I'm like, I learned that I'm Israeli.
Yeah, that's
And it was weird because the first letter of every sentence actually spelled out Sarah's name.
It totally did. Yeah. But no, it reminds me a lot of Boston. It's a very fast-paced, at 2 a.m, I had to walk to a bus at 2 a.m. in Tel Aviv, and I felt perfectly fine. There was people everywhere just walking around. There's just this strange vibe about the city that I really, really like.
Yeah, no, I think that's one of the things I miss the most. San Francisco is great and I love it. Weed is everywhere. But aside from that, it's a great city and it has a good vibe to it. But it shuts down at night. Yeah, you go after 10 p.m. and I'm talking pre-coronavirus days. It's just dead. And in Tel Aviv, it's to Sarah's point. I walk around 3 a.m. and I see 16-year-old girls on scooters going somewhere.
Yes.
And and nobody's scared and nobody's afraid for that something bad is going to happen. So that's I miss that part, and I wish.
Except right now.
Except right now. Or for the foreseeable future. Kind of depressing. We're all happy. We're all happy.
Oh, there's
you're in San Francisco. You're all happy.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong. Everything's going to be fine.
No, but I think the point about San Francisco, everybody's happy. I think there's a bunch of very successful companies over here. The Uber, the Lyfts, the Airbnbs, the Stripes, all of these companies, the Facebook, the Googles. And so these companies are very mission driven and they're very successful, right? And these, the employees are getting pumped day after day. They drink the Kool-Aid. That's the mission. That's the vision. And so, that affects, and so everybody has this happy face to them. But I think if you talk to the startups, in the trenches, you would hear the bad stories. You would hear people, because startups are goddamn hard. We all know this.
I know. I'm in one. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's what I love about the one I'm in. Is everyone's no, it's not a.
So the place you are in now, it seems like, again, from the outside, it seems everybody's down to earth. Everybody knows, these, we're going to eat a lot of shit and, it's going to be fine. We're going to make it. But
everybody gets poop sandwiches. Yeah.
I want to ask Sarah a question just to point out something funny to the listeners. What's the name of the company you're working for now?
Oh, shut up.
Come on.
Honeycomb.
Yep, and she worked at CloudBees before, so
Yes.
it's like this thing she's doing.
Yes.
There's something going on. There's
And-
something there.
So when I went to San Francisco to do I think it was my on-site my first week, I met up with Erez. He dumps me in the middle of, where did you send me? Some horrible area of San Francisco, where I did fear for my life, to take me out for a drink, and he wouldn't tell me where, and I knew. Where was it? It was the Honeybee or something?
No, it was called the Beehive.
The Beehive, yeah. So I have a
Perfect.
picture of him like at the Beehive from the last time I went.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't Erez, we didn't really talk about what exactly now you're doing at the Bee, since we're talking about it. Like, you got acquired. Are you still, like, what do you do? What's your day-to-day?
Yeah.
What's your title? What does that look like?
Yeah. So I lead the product of Rollout, the feature management product, director of product. And, you know, we kept the team, and essentially CloudBees that acquired Rollout, you know, they saw a strategic value in integrating feature flags into to the other product. So, I mean, it's still a standalone product, which we are selling. And again, it was a very strategic decision by CloudBees. They have a huge user base. We're selling into that user base. We've tripled the customer base, the revenue. We're growing the team. So on that front, it's great. The transition for me was somewhat, again, I think it's for every entrepreneur in that sense. It's very violent, because at the end, I was the CEO of the company, and the view was very broad. And now you enter into this bigger company with, you know, millions in revenue, and the position is now narrow, and I'm focusing on the product. So it's a much more, it's a transition, and it's not an easy transition, at least for me. But you know, I'm happy with it. I'm good with it.
Have you learned a lot?
A lot, yeah. I'm learning. I've learned a lot. I think By the way, I don't know if you know this, but Eugenia left. So it's a complete But it's
oh my God, you and I need to talk about that at some point. Like, you got my number.
Yeah.
I know you don't talk on the phone, but text me.
No, I can talk on the phone. That's all I have left to do.
We
go
can
ahead,
kind of
Brian.
transition into that like a little bit. What's it like we're in San Francisco right now, in the current state of things?
So I think San Francisco was one of the first U.S. Cities, or California as a whole, or country, states to kind of say, okay, this is serious shit. Let's quarantine. So I'm in the house for like the past 2 weeks, I think, maybe. I lost track of time. I'm in my pajamas, as you could maybe see. I haven't.
like
The audio
negligee
listeners, go
for-
back and look.
yeah.
You can see the pajamas.
Yeah, it's like a negligee. It's pretty. It looks like silk. It's nice.
It's not silk, but I'm slowly transitioning.
It's definitely silk. Go back and look.
Hey, brother, it's not silk. But no, I think my idol is transitioned to the Big Lebowski look. You know,
Yes.
So I need to buy a bowling.
You need a
ball or
white
something.
Russian.
Yeah.
You need
You need the
a
rug
white
that
Russian.
pulls the room together.
I haven't.
There was a rug. It was right
do
there.
you want to see the rug?
Yeah. We would love a full tour around your house if you can.
Oh.
Well, I'm afraid the tour would have you meet my kids, and that would not, I mean, it's nice, but I had enough of them.
Be a little too personal. Go ahead.
Had enough of them. Jeez, man.
Hey,
That doesn't sound like San Francisco to me.
no, it doesn't.
well, I'm Israeli. What can I say? So San Francisco. I mean, again, a lot of running people. So you go on the streets, it's like the running man. It's like everybody's running or taking the dog for a walk, from like the 5th or 10th time. But it's I don't know. I think like any other places that is quarantine, man. I think it's all a lot of Zoom, a lot of Slack. There's a new app that I'm using now called House Party, which is like a video chat that like a group chat, which is nice. I was on a family call with my grandmother, which is like turned 94. She's in New York City. That's stupid.
Oh God.
That's where she is. So we
Yeah.
all of us talked to her. I guess I don't know. How's it for you guys? Where are you guys? And then are you? I mean, it sounds like Sarah is going to cafes, so I'm not sure.
It's my cafe.
It's her cafe.
My cafe.
Your turn cafe. So yeah.
We're in the Florida, and unfortunately, from what I understand, there's a lot of people coming down from the tri-state area since it's so bad there, coming to Florida unchecked. So things are getting slightly bad here in some areas.
Luckily, our governor is like taking swift action.
Shut up. He is not. No.
I know.
Yeah, that was the sarcasm.
That was sarcasm.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. What about Erez, what about it at home? How's it going over there? Like as far as across the sea, what's it like?
Oh, so yeah, it's a good question. I think so. I have a bunch of family and friends in Israel, so I was always kind of influenced by the Israeli media. Kind of my Facebook feed and stuff. So in Israel, they were much more. Not crazy, but just much more concerned constantly about the China situation and the Italy situation. And so they seem to have taken drastic measures way faster than the US. The US was slow to react on that front. And so, everybody's in lockdown. It's the same, even they have even stricter lockdown so that you're not supposed to run outside. You're not supposed, I don't know what you do with the dog, but you get fined if you go outside. Now, one thing you should know, Israelis, like the culture, and I'm sure kind of to go back to what Sarah mentioned, are not very obedient in terms of like a civil, so I'm sure people are out. But I feel that in the US, people would would hear kind of the instruction and kind of keep them. But yeah, in Israel, everybody's in lockdown, same thing. I think like any other place in the world, you worry about your parents, which are suddenly in this risk factor group, or your grandparents. But yeah, everybody's waiting to see what's going to go on. I think, I mean,
have you changed anything from your day to day? I mean, obviously, you're not leaving, but is there anything new that's going on that like you're like, oh, I'm enjoying this now, like that?
So I've mentioned my pajamas. So CloudBees, by the way, I haven't mentioned this, but CloudBees is a company that is fully remote, right? They have a few offices, but it's a fully remote company. So I was already working from home mostly, but I miss my coffee places where I used to sit down and pretty much do that thing. So that's I spend time with the kids, which is nice and not nice.
Forced quality time.
Yeah, forced. I'm losing track. I'm like an old person. I'm losing track of the days. I could say, hey, is today Saturday? But, so that's happening. I'm not sure.
It is.
No, it is not.
It is not, man. It's Friday? No, it's not Friday.
No, it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
I actually feel really bad. My life is very much the same.
The same? No way.
Well, so so I work remote just like you. So I'm
she
always
hates people. So
people are terrible. So I already work remote. I live on a 5-acre farm on a dirt road. So like I can go out and run all I want. There's nobody here.
Wow.
So I have the outside, I have the horses and the dogs. And then because the cafe is not
closed.
Open, it's closed. Yeah. I mean, we did that before they even recommended doing that. My husband's a nurse and he's like, no, you don't do that. But when we built it, we built a takeout window because
brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can do service through the takeout window. So what we do is we get up in the morning, take care of the dogs, and then head over to the cafe. We've got cold brew and like everything I need is like there, and we just stay there. So
I'm tempted to drive there just to try the nitro tea because I want to try that nitro.
It's really good. We have a
never had that
blend. It's a special blend that our roaster did, and it's really, really good.
But how about? Yeah, go ahead, Fredrik. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, how is it for you guys? I mean, and you guys, has your daily routine changed to any extent.
Brian,
At all?
yours has, right?
What?
Yours has, Brian, right? Because you.
Yeah, I mean, I
routine.
used to go. Yeah, I'd only worked remote like 2 days a week, generally. And I mean, the main thing that's going to be annoying more and more to me. I know it seems like a ridiculous thing, but my hair. I want to get my hair cut, and I know I can do it myself, but it's not the same. I also my beard. I usually go get my beard like trimmed.
Looks like you're letting yourself go.
Yeah, I do. I'm becoming mountain man. Usually that only happens when I go in the mountains for like a couple weeks.
I'm sorry. No,
like,
of all the beards here, the only mountain man beard I see is Erez. Like he's the only one with a mountain man.
You can't see it very well on camera then because it's like very foofy. Plus I like added it up. And
Come on.
Very mountain man. Very mountain
You
man.
guys, both Brian and Fredrik, your beard looks, very
thank you.
Organized. This is, I have hairs in my teeth, man. I mean, talking about a haircut, no,
it's coming over my lip. It's like over my, my lips now. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you look like a mess. What I was going to ask is, what do you? Well, it's true. I'm just kidding. What I was going to ask is, this is easy for people like myself, Brian, and Sarah that are introverts, where we recharge when we're
introvert.
Well, hold on. Let me finish the definition.
Yeah,
An introvert is somebody that recharges when they're alone. I'm not saying they're shy or not outgoing. That's a misconception. Introverts recharge when they're by themselves. An extrovert recharges. Let me finish. So an extrovert recharges when they're in a group of people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I imagine for extroverts, this is way harder for people. So how do extroverts get through this? I don't know if you're an extrovert, Erez,
I would,
or an introvert.
Yeah, I would define myself as an extrovert, but then the definition of an introvert is new to me. So I might be both. But no, I think you get used to anything. So somehow I got used to this in a weird way, but I definitely miss meeting people and talking to people aside from like
See, exactly. There's the introvert, but yes. So you feel like you need to have that that charge by being a group of people.
Yes, absolutely.
Weird. It's so weird because on Twitter, I'm so used to seeing people like when they're going to conferences or something. They're like, oh, I got to deal with all these people. It's gonna be hard for me. But afterwards, I can go chill in the hotel room. And now I'm seeing the feed. Oh, I just want to be surrounded by a crowd. I'm like, oh my God, the world's flipped upside down. It's so weird.
Well, I would say this. I bought the Oculus Rift a while ago. And so that's
I'm simulator.
No, it's a
normal simulator.
Yeah,
that's a good idea, by the way. And so so there's a game called Rec Room, and Sarah, you would have loved that. Rec Room, like REC space room.
Oh, I thought you said raccoon, and I'm like, oh, raccoon. Yeah. Okay, all right.
She was like, I have the raccoon game, but tell me about this one.
Okay, right.
She might.
But it's just kind of a you meet the people and you play stupid game with them, but just random people, and there's a lot of open space where people just gather and some teenagers are harassing other teenagers, but it's fine.
That sounds awesome. I'd love to play that.
That actually sounds really cool.
Yeah, so that's nice. I'm going back to the Oculus now.
Yeah, they need like a New York City sidewalk simulator for all the extroverts.
They need a game just called Everything's Fine.
And plus I have a nice backyard. So San Francisco, sunny California, it's sun out. I mean, it's not Florida, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's cold over here. I forget you guys have the best weather.
We do not.
What do you mean?
All native Floridians think that's so wrong because it's like hot, humid, mosquitoes.
Yeah, I would take that over cold any day of the week.
That's true. No, that's true. That's
hey, guys,
I'd much rather the cold.
No. So You just guys haven't been to the cold for a while. Listen, I grew up in Tel Aviv, humid, hot. I miss that part of the,
It makes your skin like all dewy and plump. Like you go to somewhere cold and dry and you age like 20 years. It's awful. No.
Sounds so nice.
No. No.
But Tel Aviv, it doesn't have like the bug floored like environment, does it?
What do you mean?
No mosquitoes like crazy. I don't think so.
I mean, there's mosquitoes, but not. I'm assuming you guys have it worse because you get it's like
swamp, bog.
Yeah.
We have bugs as big as your fist out there.
No, yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. Wow.
They feed the alligators.
Yeah, no alligators. No.
We have alligators walking around the block pretty much everywhere in Florida.
Yeah.
You could ride them.
No, we don't have that. Yeah,
we should definitely do that.
We do have Florida people bringing their little baby alligators into 7-Eleven. So
that's true.
That is a true story.
Well,
is it lightning round time?
Yeah, I think
lightning round time. Declaration by Sarah, official.
Yeah. So what lightning round is basically we each ask a question in turn. We're asking you, answer the question, and then we move on to another one. Sarah will perform brilliantly.
Shut up.
And Frederick will go first.
Dang, I was going to ask Sarah to go first because that would have been perfect. What's your favorite cartoon as a kid?
Ooh, I'm conflicted. Can I say two?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so He-Man, I have the power, Castle
Power Grayskull, sure.
And then Thundercats, Thundercats.
We are perfectly aligned.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sarah?
Oh, why am I next? All right. Fuck! I never prepare questions for this.
You should
have. Favorite band? That was lame. Sorry.
Real quick.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say that recently I'm going to talk about the band that I like recently, and I'm playing it a lot. So have you guys heard about the Decemberists?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
Yep. Love them.
What is an irrational fear that you have?
Ooh, irrational fear. I have many fears, but not. I'm also. I don't want to die, but that's rational. So irrational fear. Yeah, you got me on that one, man.
Is that difficult?
He's rationalizing each one.
That's the problem. Well, I can tell you that, this is maybe an irrational dislike, not a fear.
Sure.
But
I have those.
I don't like big cups. I know that sounds silly. That sounds silly.
Coffee cups?
No, cups. I just, listen. I just don't like, don't give me a big cup. It's heavy. It's uncomfortable. I just give me small cups. I just prefer small cups.
Does it like make you angry when you see a big cup?
That's a clip for the show.
Go ahead, Frederick.
Oh, hey, if you were not able to be around a computer for the rest of your life, what would you do professionally?
Wow. If I like people, so I guess something with people. I like to teach. I guess I would go for that. Teach something. I'm not sure what.
About to say, what?
Small Cup 101.
Okay.
I don't know.
Sarah?
What?
Sarah?
Oh, it's my turn?
Yeah.
It's lightning round.
Yeah.
Quick
Wait,
turnaround.
All right. I'm trying to go fast. Okay. So if someone is traveling to Israel, what is a native dish or food that they absolutely have to try?
Yeah, so of course, I'm going to say a few. It's just very hard for me.
That's fine.
I'm going to go for the hummus, of course. I'm going to go for the shakshuka, of course. Yes. I think, I could not find in the whole place, in whole San Francisco, I did not find a good shakshuka. And then, of course, my favorite, the old times, a good pita with falafel. It's very basic.
I feel better. I got all of those, so we're good. I miss the food. Oh my God. All right, Brian.
Okay, you're in it. You're in the circus. Would you rather be the person with their head inside the lion's mouth or get shot out of the cannon?
Shot out of the can, man. Shoot me out of the can. Easy.
All right.
Yeah.
I hope it's a short, small can, not a big can. Never mind.
Erez, you come home. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. It is late. It is raining cats and dogs, figuratively and literally. You get to the house. You open a door. You're just tired and want to get in your silk PJs that you just showed us that you're wearing. You open a door and there's a ghost. What do?
Hug it. I don't know.
Sarah?
See, they cheat. They ask the
Sarah?
same questions every single time.
Yeah, that's good. That's
Boring.
It's called
That's how you're prepared.
It's boring.
It's like being
Right,
prepared.
I'm just stalling for time. So,
Yeah, easy.
God damn it, I had one, but you made me forget it because you made fun of me. I suck at this so much. Oh, I know. After everything that you've gone through, good, bad, whatever, in the startup world, would you ever want to start a new startup again and go through that?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just yeah. No,
And do you need a designer? No, I'm kidding.
Can I?
It's another question.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian. Go ahead.
Would you rather be able to copy and paste in real life or undo in real life?
Oh, fuck, that's a good question. Undo. It's a kind of a safety zone, but I'm going to go for undo.
Oh, that's good. Let me ask you, on a scale from 11 to 11.1, how good do you think this book is possibly by Sarah Veselov?
11.1. 11.1.
11.1, that's a good point. Okay, I'm going to put this back on my bookshelf.
You know
Brian,
what?
Sarah?
You're abusing that book. Abuse.
I can't believe you. Yeah.
How do you not know this? Okay.
I'm
anyway.
insulted you haven't given me one. This is.
Oh,
You should feel
whatever.
that way. I would feel insulted too.
I feel that way.
Sarah's
Sarah,
just
your question?
stalling now.
Yeah, no, I might be stalling. Oh, for fuck's sake, why do we do this? I don't want to ask the same canned questions. I just hate preparing all this crap.
Right, because you could have asked a question by now. No, I see your point.
You know what? Fuck you. Okay, so.
Violent. I don't know if you're allowed back in San Francisco.
Oh my god. God
Wait,
dang it.
you're
You're really messing me up. Oh my god, favorite color. That's all I can come up with.
Yeah.
Oh, that's strange.
I'm gonna go for light blue.
Okay. What's the last injury that you had that required you to see a doctor?
Wow. I don't recall any such injury. Yeah, I think.
I don't recall anything.
I did not have any I was sick, so a doctor,
Yeah.
but not. Yeah, no, none.
You're knock on wood now, man.
Yeah, no, I
seriously.
got some injuries. I had. Well, this was like when I was 5, man. I had a hernia. I had to have a surgery.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
at 5?
about it.
Ouch,
Horrible.
jeez.
Yeah, no, I think I had I was a kid. I lifted my neighbor. Anyway.
Oh, I didn't know that could happen as
He was,
5.
he
I'll
was
make
your
sure I
strongman in the circus when he was 5.
make sure I keep an eye on my kid who's 5. What is your favorite thing about yourself, honestly?
It's a good question. I think a part of the extrovert, people type of thing. I'm not sure how to verbally say that, but that's what I like. I get along with people very, very good usually. I get along with Sarah, so that's a
I mean,
testament.
seriously. that
Wow,
is.
that is difficult. Wow, good for you. You must be a saint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I have a question all prepared. What is your earliest memory?
I think I was actually in the US. My grandmother was living in Long Island, and they had this driveway to the house, and I had this kind of baby-ish, not baby, but like a kid's car, and I went down and I smashed into one of the cars. That's it. I was like a baby, like 2, maybe 3 or 4 year old, something like that. So I remember that vividly.
What?
What's
Oh, it's your turn. Sorry.
Brian's
yeah,
turn?
yeah.
Yeah, but Brian's on point.
What's one pet peeve of yours that you wish that you could get rid of because it hampers your enjoyment of life?
Oh wow. probably when I get too upset on my kids when my older kid, when he upsets me, I just too much. But that's because that could be depressing, but that's it.
That's what they do. That's their job, is to push the button.
Yeah, no, but that's it. I want to avoid it. I don't want my button to be pushed by a 5-year-old.
Right.
What podcast are you listening to that you're finding the most value out of right now?
So there's a podcast there's a company, actually an Israeli company called Monday.com. They do a product like kind of a Jira task management type of product. And so the founders have a podcast in Hebrew, I forget the name, but it's like the founders, and they talk about, growth and, running a company, and I still find that stuff interesting. So
that is the most boring podcast ever. No, actually, no. It sounds really interesting. Actually, I'm kidding.
Holy.
That's how, Sarah can say whatever she wants.
That's true. I can. Yep.
Mm-hmm,
I mean, he said he wants to be CEO again, so he's prepping. He's getting ready.
Nice.
I think this might be our last question, maybe.
Yeah. Last, and then
I'd like one more.
Okay.
Okay, you two go, and then we'll get to the last
one more. So, if you could only live one place in the world and never ever move again, where would it be?
Well,
you're stuck. Like, you cannot leave.
I mean, he's in San Francisco, so
it doesn't mean he wants to live there, but maybe he does.
Yeah, I would say is just because friends and family, and it's a good place. It's not a bad place. Yeah, so I would say that.
Brian.
What fact amazes you every time you think about it?
Viruses, man. Like, I'm blown away. It's not even alive. It's just a piece of DNA or RNA. And why did, evolution create that? I don't, it's a piece of nothing, and it's just multiply. The whole mission is to multiply. I mean, yeah, it blows my mind. And black holes, but that's a different story.
That's
sweet.
Wow.
Frederick?
Well, we're getting out to the end of the show. So first off, what's the best way people could find out more about you, get a hold of you? Twitter handle, website, whatnot.
Yeah, I think probably Twitter, but I'm not that active. So
handle on Twitter ever.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't remember. But I think you.
You retweet. I see retweets.
Yeah, some random stuff. I guess maybe LinkedIn.
He's not on LinkedIn either.
Jeez,
so
he's on LinkedIn. What's your Twitter handle for the audio listeners?
Yeah, I can tell you. Give me 1 second. But I would say this.
No.
I need to check. But I would say this. As an extrovert, I find it more difficult to communicate online than in person. So just putting it.
That makes sense. No, that's totally fair. Sense. Well, hey, you don't have to say it. It's fine. Let me ask you the last big question here is, do you have any final words of wisdom for the audience? Anything you'd like to say?
I don't know, wash your hands. That's pretty much it. I would say that, just on the entrepreneurship, being an entrepreneur side, I think that's very hard, but super, super fulfilling. And, it's, if you want to do something, just do it. I know it sounds like cliche and all of that shit, but and on my end, every step of the way, although it was super difficult, but that's just, keeping it real and, living the life, and that's what I hope for myself, but that's what I suggest anybody else do.
Nice. Yeah, not everybody does that. So great advice. Anybody else got anything?
Just thank you for joining us tonight and spending a little bit of your evening with us.
No, and thank you guys. This was very fun, and I love the conversation.
Yeah.
Sarah, you got anything?
Just that I was so excited about getting to razz you for a whole hour. So thank you. This is great. And I look forward to the next time I'm in San Francisco and we go get a drink.
Yeah. But that's going to take some time.
Yeah, it's going to be a while.
We'll get there. Thank you so much, Erez. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Really appreciate it. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
If I could figure out how to end the live stream.